Hey everyone, it's Matt C. This is my Detective Dead video, my obligatory Cridius video. Everyone's jumping in on this, and I'm not trying to dogpile the dude because, sadly, unfortunately, this is not an uncommon experience in crowdfunding. I think, I think he's just a dumb kid who got a lot of responsibility and a lot of money from people who were new to crowdfunding and had the sparkle, the joy of life in their eyes, and weren't used to crowdfunding, hadn't been around crowdfunding since 2010 or whatever it was when Kickstarter really got started and started to blow up for comics. And so this was, one of the first comics they backed in 2018, and they were really excited, and they hadn't seen late projects before. They hadn't seen unfunded projects before. And Cridius obviously wasn't familiar with the crowdfunding scheme. Well, scheme's a bad word. I really don't even think it was a scheme for him. I think it was just, being a dumb kid. But I guess my take is it's sad that when these sort of things happen, because I'd say Kickstarter is no longer a place where people casually browse and back comics anymore, unless they're already at the trending page. I think there's like a human nature sense that if something is hugely trending in terms of backer support, that there's more accountability there, there's more reliability there. There's a sense that, I don't know the guy from Adam, but if 1,000 people are backing him, I can probably trust the crowd, even if I don't know if I can trust him, if that sort of makes sense. And I'm not just calling people sheeple. I'm saying if a particular creator doesn't follow through with something, there's 1,000 people who are going to expect that he or she make good on their promises. You know what I mean? And there's a sense that there's more transparency when there's that many people with eyes on a product. That's the sense that I get, which is why there's more competition than ever on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and yet very few crowdfunders. It's a remarkable minority. Very few get funded, and I think at best 50% on Kickstarter get funded, and those goals are usually in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, which is not enough to print a book. So don't know what's going on there. A lot of people investing their own money. But obviously Kickstarter typically, or Indiegogo typically, has more people probably from coming over from the traditional comic book market, the American comic book market, they're thinking about physical books, and they're thinking more in terms of actual printing costs and funding a team. They typically have higher realistic goals, and and as we know, like 85% of the people, the funding for 2019 so far has gone to 10 creators, and all of whom are imminently accountable because they're on YouTube live streams every day or making videos. So there's more of a sense of transparency there. I'm not critiquing any of this, the phenomenon. I just think it's I don't know. I like people. I like culture. I like studying it from a distance, and I like trying to understand it so I can better be a part of it. And I think the more transparent people seem to be, the more available people seem to be, the more accountable they seem to be. And so the more backer, the higher sense of trust you may have in them, and also the higher sense that you're going to actually be able to hold them accountable, and the more likely you're going to get your book, which is not the case, unfortunately, but that is the sense, the very natural sense that I think a lot of people do have, is from 2018 onwards, that someone who I've spent a lot of time with, watching on YouTube videos and such. I trust their opinions. I like their personality. I feel like, we're really hanging out. Like, I'm dialoguing with them from the chat, things of that sort. Maybe guests on their show, that sort of thing. Maybe I'm a co-YouTuber with them, so I get a real sense of who they are as a person, as an entertainer. That doesn't necessarily translate into reliable comic book production, comic book producer, but which is why so many campaigns are late, phenomenally late, and many are. A couple have failed, and probably there will be more, unfortunately, that are kind of on their last legs or kind of fizzling in some respect, which is really sad. I don't. For those of you who know me, I don't play the Comicsgate, anti-Comicsgate, ex-Comicsgate war. I just kind of observe how people are doing things, and it really does seem to be. It's. I think there's been a lot of backers learning to be more careful, and YouTube influencers don't necessarily pick. They might pick people that are really interesting and entertaining and kind of worth supporting, if that sort of makes sense, in terms of your backing them, like giving them money because you find them to be valuable contributors to the YouTube sphere as commentators and as kind of public figures, and you want to give them some money because you care about them. But that's what like a Patreon is for, or a GoFundMe or something. But unfortunately, there's been it's harder to do that within Indiegogo. There really is an expressed understanding that all that money is going towards backing something. So I really recommend people. I suppose that's what super chats are, which is good. People do find you get an immediate satisfaction of giving super chats, and they really do serve their function of endorsing and financially supporting someone as a YouTube entertainer and creator and thought person, influencer, that sort of thing. But if you're gonna support someone, if you're gonna think of people supporting you, it should be either in the super chat arena or in the pure merchandise arena, where it's like a one and done item, like a something that doesn't take a team to produce, like hats and t-shirts, that sort of thing. Or becoming a member of a YouTube channel, or Patreon, or there's so many ways to give money to people that you support. But expecting a comic book should not be a way that people can do whatever the heck they want, and they will continue to, but I think it's a very pre-ordering a comic book from someone who does not have experience in comic books is a very inefficient way of supporting that person, a very risky way, because you're I would say almost even at cross purposes, you're trying to endorse them, and you're trying to lend them your support because you care about them as a person, and you're expecting them to produce a really nice book in 6 months' time, is usually what these people were projecting. And I think that's been disastrous to crowdfunding. It's kind of a new phenomenon. Before 2018, people were crowdfunding based on webcomic support. There would be some YouTuber type people who were just kind of talking about the craft of Jason Brewbakers and stuff like that. But being like a cultural influencer and then putting out a comic is new. People are still trying to get a sense of the contours of that, the successes of that, what have been the drawbacks, how that has really played out. There's still fallout because there's still campaigns that have yet to be fulfilled since 2018, and it's looking like, not naming names because it's not important and it's not helpful at all, but there's going to be probably more, unfortunately, that are going to be underfulfilled or not fulfilled at all. And I suspect Cridius, as being someone who has kind of dropped off the commentary scene of being, a guest YouTuber type person, being an entertainer, being someone who's visible in public and part of a quote unquote movement within CG. He's probably easier to critique, within CG as well as without, because he's kind of dropped off. But well, I guess we're gonna see. I feel bad for the guy in a way, just for being dumb, but I'm glad I didn't back the campaign. And I guess people are just gonna have to learn what people on Kickstarter have learned, to be cautious. Don't necessarily back things that are trending. That's always going to be a temptation, and maybe it is more of a guarantee that you're going to get your book. There might be something really behind this idea that the more public someone is, the more well-known they are, the more likely they're going to get you your book. But there isn't a one-to-one guarantee. There could be a correlation there, but I really wouldn't back on it. I would back on if this person really does seem like that they have a team of experienced people, which Cridius did seem to have, in all fairness. Writing being one thing on his part, but his artists were talented. But I suppose, people have brought this up, that a red flag could be a book that's 130 something pages and you raise 39,000, 38,000, and you have a team of, you're trying to do this the Marvel way for some reason, and you've got an inker and a letterer and a penciler and a color artist. That's a recipe for disaster, because that comes down to, apparently that's 300 pages or $300 per page to produce and print and ship, and that's not nearly enough. But yeah, so I guess people are gonna, I would say single creator productions are cheaper and also better, easier to produce and fulfill. That's what I'm doing. I'm the only name on every step of this process other than editor. I have an editor, but everything else is I only have to pay myself, which means I won't get paid. I'm just making a book. But I see a lot of people out there who do have experience, who have crowdfunded in the past and do know how to, and are coming into crowdfunding as producers, as experienced illustrators, as experienced comic book artists, experienced writers, or experienced people who know how to manage a team specifically. And those people are already on to their next campaigns for the most part, second or third, in some, or more in some cases. And those are the people that you can back at this point. Someone coming right out of the gate is going to be looked at more suspiciously now, and that's probably natural. I think there was a little too much optimism, I guess unrealistic optimism in 2018, and that's been tempered a lot. And it's probably down to levels that you would expect in a normal crowdfunding ecosystem, where it really is a slog. It really is difficult. There's a lot of talented artists out there and writers. There's a lot of interesting comic book ideas, but many of them, there's more great comics out there than comics that actually get crowdfunded, and that's because art and story isn't enough. There has to be something above and beyond that actually encourages me and you and most people, normally speaking, to actually want to commit your dollars to something that you won't see the fruits of for many months. And that's credibility, and that credibility is demonstrated through a variety of ways, I guess. There can be a pseudo credibility from just being well known on YouTube, but there's better ways to seek credibility from creators. And yeah, seeing if people have already demonstrated a campaign at this point is probably a good bellwether of someone who's going to take care of your money and invest it appropriately and responsibly, and get you something that is of equal and greater value than the money that you put in. Those are the sort of people you want to look out for. Yeah. So I'll just leave it at that. I think Sweetcast has done a great job with his team. I mean, he's got the big Marvel Way team, which normally I think is kind of dumb for crowdfunding. But there is an upside. It can get done faster. And provided he makes lots of money, which fortunately he is able to, he can pay all those people and get it done efficiently. And good for him. And he's already done it once, which means he can probably do it a second time. So he would be a good example of someone that his visibility and transparency, his well-knownness in the YouTube sphere probably does help him. And it's not a pseudo credibility. It does seem like a legitimate credibility. Yeah, but then there's a lot of people like that too. It doesn't seem like credibility. I mean, it is. You earn it after your first campaign, I feel like. And you have to bring in, if you don't have a first campaign, you have to bring in people who have already campaigned in the past. That would be how I would be measuring things. Is your team constructed of people who have crowdfunded successfully and fulfilled successfully in an efficient amount of time? So far, there's only a handful of people who have come out of 2019 who have been able to do that, who, at least within the YouTube kind of CG sphere, or just indie comics generally, there's been, I mean, and it's not from just being dumb kids. It's a exceptionally difficult product, a comic. To get that fulfilled is a mighty achievement. It's about 1,800 times harder than making t-shirts or hats. So anyone who's able to do it once is doing something pretty incredible, to be honest. So look out for people who have fulfilled once and are doing further campaigns. I mean, honestly, those are the people that people are naturally drawing towards, I think, for 2020. And unashamedly, I'll just say that I'm one of them. I'm one of many. But yeah, that's where you need to be focusing for 2020. But that's just my thoughts. That's my obligatory Cridius video. Sorry, Cridius. You do seem like a nice guy, but there's so much easier ways to make 40K than trying to manage a crowdfunding campaign. I'm sure the poor guy, he sounds pretty, he's beaten up himself more than anyone else could. So, yeah, just leave it at that. Thanks for checking out this video, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.